going on. So wanted to, well, today we're going to be talking about some self-storage, but let me check in first just to make sure everything is here. So if for those of you that are here and can hear me, if you would just like let me know that you can hear me, that'd be great, and then I can start. My computer's kind of in an awkward place, so just need to. Okay, well, I'm going to get started, and let's talk about self-storage today. So today, the topic that we're going to talk about is acquiring the first deal. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a case study of how I acquired my first self-storage deal, and we'll talk about just the acquisition part of it, right? So I'm not going to be talking about the management side of it. I'm not going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that happens afterwards. It's really just kind of up until the close, and then we'll get into some Q&A. So if there's anything about there's anything that people have a question about, I'd be happy to answer that as well afterwards. Okay, let me just. All right, cool. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for letting me know. And Facebook user, when you guys, if you have the link in there, let me see can I show you like a little link in there that if you want to be part of the show and let me know who you are and let yourself come on screen. And yeah, just you can follow that link and bring you on. So definitely gonna try to talk about this for say 30 minutes or so, and then we'll get into any Q&A. You can have any Q&A and try to wrap this up in 45 minutes. Last time we went an hour. I think an hour is a little too long, so I'd like to try to wrap this up in 45 minutes. Okay. So let's see. So welcome to the live stream with Powell, episode number two. Okay. I'm trying to do it on Tuesdays, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Let's see. Yeah, that'll try to be the time that I'm going to make this happen. So as we're coming in on this, let me know where you're coming in from. Like I want to love to hear where you guys are in from. What location you're at. I myself, so I'll just introduce myself real quick. So I'm Powell Chee, live in Los Angeles. And in terms of real estate investing, I've done all my real estate investing out of state, so outside of California. That was a big shift for me, was understanding that I could do real estate outside of California, and that was like a huge, eye-opening experience to me. And so all of my real estate is done outside of California. I have involved in a number of different syndications, so large multifamily apartments. And more recently, I've been focused on a lot of self-storage and getting involved in a lot of self-storage deals. And so, yeah, let me know where you're from. Let's see. Okay. Looks like Samuel. Hey, you got a question kind of about cost saves and things like that. We'll get to that. Appreciate that. So we'll get to that in the end. Okay. And let's see. Who else is showing up? Thank you. Looks like Facebook user from Philly. Got another one from New Jersey. All right. Okay. Ken Colby, South African. Oh, okay. Now based in Montreal. Okay, so international. All right, good. And let's see. Kevin. So Kevin, thanks for showing up. It's in Texas. Okay. Awesome. Okay. All right. So in terms of self-storage investing, all my self-storage investing has also been out of state. And this is the very first one. So I'm going to rewind about a year ago. Okay. So, last week we talked about what's your, kind of your favorite method of finding deals. And I'm going to go over kind of like, hey, how I found this deal. And we'll talk a little bit about the actual deal itself. And then we'll just go up to the period, like I said, up to the close. Okay. So rewind about a year ago, started looking at self-storage, right? When COVID hit, I started moving from multifamily and started looking at self-storage. And I knew at the time I wasn't going to buy any multifamily, but I was looking at a different asset class, and I thought self-storage sounded like a great idea. It sounds like, hey, you don't have to fix things. You don't have to, the tenant turnover is a lot easier. There's no tenants in there in the first place. There's no toilets. There's trash. There's a lot easier to clean out. A lot of things that sounded a lot easier, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know how to run it. I didn't know how to underwrite it. And so I just heard it was a great asset class, but I didn't really know much about it. Okay. Took the time then about a year ago to figure this out, to really kind of learn it. And then I started looking at deals, right? And started looking at deals. So my favorite way of looking at deals, or finding deals, is through brokers. And we talked about that last week, right? So my way is looking through brokers. I don't really do a ton of direct. Well, I don't really do any direct to market or direct to seller type of marketing. That's great. I think that's an awesome way to go. Something I will be looking at in the future, but right now I don't do any of that. I just talk with brokers. And brokers have deals, and I talk to brokers and form a relationship with them, and then figure out if they're a good deal or not. Right? So when it comes to like finding the deal, right? First thing you got to do is find the deal. Right? So I was going to share on my screen. So I'm using this different software right now. Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit funky as far as like how I could do everything. Let me see. And okay. This is really working, and I'm wasting a lot of time. Okay, so what I was going to show was basically an OM. Okay, an OM is an offering memorandum. It's basically the thing you get from a broker. The broker puts a deal out to market. Okay, put a deal out to market, and they say, here's a great deal. Everybody should buy this deal, and it's called an offering memorandum. So I got a hold of an offering memorandum. It was for my deal, so I ended up closing the deal. But so this offering memorandum means that it was on market, right? It was available to everybody. It wasn't something that was hidden from anybody, or I got some great special deal or anything. It was really like, hey, the market was there. Nobody had really picked it up, so it was an opportunity that I saw. Now, I was going to go on an offer memorandum. If I can get this, I'll show this just because it's. Okay, so I'm trying to share my screen. Show Are we back? Oh, shoot. Okay. Sorry if you guys couldn't hear me because I couldn't see the comments. So can you hear me now? Not sure. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties and everything. But sorry, I went through like the whole OM and probably just kind of talked about the OM. Let me just say there are certain things there that in the OM, what you're looking for, what I was looking for, and why I thought this was a good deal was what is the value add in this deal, right? Where are the value add in this deal? So you got to kind of a look at what I was looking at, right? However, what I was kind of highlighting and talking about specifically was where I saw the value add, and that is on the income side. You saw that the occupancy was very low, right? The occupancy was somewhere around 65% occupancy. So my goal was, okay, what if we get this to 85%? Now, how does the property look? Does that look like something that is a good enough return for me and my team? Is if we take it from 65% to 85%, or do we need to take it higher, right? What are the other things that we can increase the value on this property on? So some of you may have not, as we were looking at some of the income and the expenses, you didn't see much in terms of other income. You saw some in fees, but other income, like this property did not charge for insurance, right? So there was no insurance income, right? And that's something that if you're looking at a facility, that's another value add that you can bring. It's the property does not have any tenant insurance or tenant protection program. If you can implement that, and then you can get basically a commission every single time that somebody pays, which is every month, towards your income based off of just the insurance that you'll be charging, right? So it's kind of like finding what, looking in that OM, finding where am I going to lower expenses, where am I going to increase the income, right? And is this a good enough property for me to, to go into, just take a look at it a little more deeply, okay? Sorry about that. I was not able to. You guys were not able to hear me on that. But I don't want to go over it all again. I can talk to you guys later about it. Okay, so let's talk really quickly here. That's all about like finding the deal. Okay, so we're looking at, that was all about finding the deal. Finding the deal. I found this deal through a broker, right? You guys probably saw the deal. It said $775,000, right? That doesn't mean you had to offer that. I didn't offer that. I ended up closing this deal at $675,000. So I got a $100,000 discount on the purchase price, on the listed purchase price. So after you find the deal, right? I mean, the next thing really, once you get that OM, you need to underwrite, right? So you need to know how to underwrite the deal, and that is all kind of on the income and expenses side, right? So the income and expenses that you get from the broker is just a quick snapshot. You need to look deeper if you think that the deal is a good deal or a deal worth exploring. Then you go to the broker and get more information from them, and then as you get more information, you figure out whether or not this is something that you think you could project will be a good deal for you. For us, in this deal, the whole play for this deal was to just bring this occupancy from 65% up to 85%. There was no catching up on, there was no bringing this to market value in terms of the rent. Like the rent is 70 cents per square foot. This actual facility is like at 56. So we didn't say we were going to get it to market rent. We just said, hey, we're just going to get it to, we're just going to bring the occupancy up, right? We did not include in our underwriting, we did not include things like the insurance, like I just mentioned that you can do. Although that was one of the very first things that we did, was just institute, mandatory insurance, right? Now, why I did not include that is that in our numbers, we didn't have to include all of these ancillary ways of making money in order to hit our numbers, right? And so we didn't need to do that. So we could just stay conservative just stay very conservative and say we don't need to increase the rent amount. We don't need to add things like insurance. We don't need to do things like add, like there was an office there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's an office. Say renting out the office, renting out, or just to fast forward of what we just actually did is we actually demolished the office and we're just going to put parking there instead. And we didn't include any of that income from parking, or because we didn't include that in our underwriting. So the whole idea of this deal is just to increase the occupancy. Okay. So in our underwriting, that's all we were really doing. Now, I'm just going to, from what you need to do after you do your underwriting. Okay, so this is all about the acquisitions of the deal. After you do their underwriting, you need to submit an LOI. Okay, so a LOI is called a letter of intent. Okay, submit an LOI. So that is a basic form. It's a non-binding form. It's usually about 3 pages or so that you send to the broker, and the broker will send it to the seller, and the seller will look it over and see if they accept your offer, or if they want to negotiate your offer, or if they have some, there's a little negotiation back and forth. So it's non-binding, but you want to get it to the point where the seller will sign it and say, yeah, I agree to this. I agree to all these terms, and you agree to all these terms, and then you can move on to really the next step, which is a purchase and sale agreement. Okay, which is right here. So it's purchase and sale agreement. So you want to do the early negotiations with a letter of intent. Okay, because a purchase and sale agreement is something that you need to get from either. I mean, maybe you could get from the broker, but you're going to get it from like the lawyer, or you're going to have the lawyers write that. And that costs money. You're going to be paying lawyers. It costs time as well. So you don't want to waste all that time and money. You want to have this non-binding agreement, which is the letter of intent, and go back and forth with the seller on the price, on the closing date, the due diligence terms, things like that. You want to go through all of that first and get an agreement before you really start submitting a purchase and sale. Okay, so purchase and sale agreement is next. After you submit the purchase and sale agreement, the next thing you do is you submit the earnest money. Okay, so in this, just to kind of go over like what we were doing, so I was doing the letter of intent. I was back and forth, negotiating price, negotiating the length of terms, also negotiating what due diligence documents I want. Right, this is a big one. Is that you want to be up. Well, you don't have to. For me, I'm a little upfront in telling people like these are the documents that I want. I want 3 years of tax returns. I want 3 years of loss runs from your insurance. So that basically says you get it from your insurance company that says these are the claims I've had in the last 3 years, or maybe there's no claims. Okay, there's that. There's you want a certificate of occupancy. You want there's a whole list. You want P&L, so you want a profit and loss for the last 3 years, right? You want an updated rent roll. These are all the things that I list out, and I tell them this is what I want. When in the purchase and sale agreement, I'm going to ask for these particular things. So if you do not agree to them, then let me know what you don't agree to, so that I can either take it out or tell you that, hey, I really do need this. Okay. So those are the things that go back and forth with the LOI. So that's what I'm doing with LOI. And then I am contacting a lawyer, or I'm contacting the broker as well, and getting the purchase and sale agreement ready. So once I get the letter of intent signed, right? And so I got it signed from the seller. He said, I agree to these terms. Then I take that document, give it to a lawyer, and I have them draft up a purchase and sale agreement. Okay. And when you do this with any lawyer, this can go any number of ways, right? I've had it go many different ways with a lawyer. So it can go from like, hey, this is just a 10-page purchase and sale agreement, very straightforward, not a lot of things in there, to like a 30 to 40, 50-page purchase and sale agreement that has all these different clauses and things that are going on, and it could get really, you could really just get bogged down with all the legal side. So I suggest you try to go make it as simple as possible, but that all kind of depends on your lawyer, right? So ours on this one was very, very simple. I think it was like 9 pages, right? Which is very, very simple. I mean, I don't think you get less than 9 pages. So that's as much as it could be. After that, really, you have written in that purchase and sale agreement that you're going to put down the earnest money within probably 5 days or so. So it's going to be in the contract. It's going to tell you how many days you need to put the earnest money in. Now, I will tell you from a buyer's perspective, this whole time up to this point, you are trying to make this happen as fast as possible. You are trying to get them to send you're getting an LOI, you're underwriting, you're trying to get them to send the LOI or sign the LOI back as fast as possible. So try to get it, you're trying to get this done as quickly as possible because you don't want necessarily anybody else to take your deal, right? You want to get this deal under contract. And then you want to get it under contract as fast as you can, right? But as soon as you get it under contract, you want to slow everything down as much as possible, okay? Because now you're on the clock and you have a certain time that you have to close by. And if you don't close, you lose your earnest money. So one of the things is like, hey, you have 5 days to put your earnest money in. Well, if you put your earnest money in day one, you could, but that's just going to start your clock faster, right? So in general, if you're preparing stuff and you're starting to talk to lenders, you're starting to talk to all these other people, and they don't just get back to you right away. They take their time. So you need to lengthen this out. So I put in my earnest money probably in day 4, right? You have to put it in day 4 or day 5 by day 5. So I put it in somewhere on day 4. All right. And so I'm trying to slow the things down, right? So in the purchase now, so that's earnest money. Let me see what's next. Generally I would tell you earnest money is around like 1% or so of the purchase price. So you got to think about 1% of the purchase price has to go down as earnest money. Now it could be more, it could be less. That's all very negotiable, but that's just a good starting point to put on there. All right. Okay. So again, now once you get your purchase and sale agreement, my next step is to do on-site due diligence. Okay. Is to get into the on-site due diligence. Now that means I need to fly out there, and I need to get out there and look at the property firsthand, meet the broker, perhaps I meet the seller. And what else do we do on on-site due diligence? Well, we're doing an inspection, right? So we pay for an inspection, right? That's a third-party person to come out there. You're starting to get your CapEx budget, so you've got an idea of what CapEx may need to be fixed. But when you get on site, there's going to be a couple other things. So for us, a big thing was drainage. This property needed some drainage on the backside of some of the units. It wasn't draining very well, and it was kind of like water could kind of go underneath your storage units. You don't want that. You want it to drain to like a little waterway, right? So you also want to look at the drainage on inside the driveways was actually getting clogged up because of like dirt and stuff just getting clogged up. The weeds were starting to grow inside of the drain. So you pull up the drain cover and pull out the weeds, the dirt, kind of clear that out, throw it away, because you want to make sure these drain really well. So let's see. We pay for like a market analysis. So it's like a third party will do a market analysis for you. So they'll look at what are the rents in the area? What are the competitors doing? How occupied are the units? Are they all at 65%? Occupancy? Because if they are, then you're probably not going to get much higher than 65% occupancy. But if they're all at 90 and you're at 65, well, something's wrong here, right? And they'll be able to tell you, like, based on these climate controlled items or non-climate controlled, we figure that you should be able to get up to 85, 90, maybe even higher than 85. So that's what you kind of want. That's the things you need to pay for. So you need to pay for these due diligence items, as you're out there, and you probably want these reports done before you get out there, right? So again, you get the purchase and sale agreement. You got to start setting your flight. Well, in my case, my flight. So I'm flying out there because I don't live in Baton Rouge, live in Los Angeles. So got to prepare your flights, your hotels, and all that. So again, you want to slow these things down because you gotta, you're under the clock at this point when you're under contract. So so as much as you can kind of slow down that clock, the early clock, the better, because you got to line these up. The inspection, the property, the market analysis don't just happen right away. They got to send their teams out there. They got to get out there, do their thing, get a report for you, send that report back. So it takes time for that stuff to happen. So now for us, our due diligence was 30 days. We had 30 days to do our due diligence. So within that, purchase and sale agreement, that day happens. Now you got 30 days after that to do your due diligence. During that time, you as the buyer, at least in my contract, that it's like, hey, if I feel like any reason I don't like this property, I can withdraw and I'll get my money back, right? I'll get my earnest money back. But after that 30 days, your money goes hard, or my money goes hard. So 30 days, my money went hard. Okay, and then and at that point, if I pull out of the deal, the seller keeps the earnest. All right. Now, just like on-site due diligence, just a quick story. Really quickly, what happened? So we were out there. So my team and I were out there. We were visiting the property. So we visited the property during the day. And actually, this was a time during, it was about like, I think it was about a month after Hurricane Charles, I believe, that came through. And kind of, it didn't come through Baton Rouge, but it came through about 100 miles, I think it was west. And so we felt it, or the area felt it, but it wasn't devastating or anything to the Baton Rouge area. However, when we got to Baton Rouge, we started saying, okay, well, we're in our hotel. We need a rental car, right? So let's get a rental car. And so we had a rental car. We had a reservation, but by the time we got to the airport, the reservations were canceled, and they were like, "No, you guys don't get a reservation." And we're like, "What do you mean? We made a reservation. We would like our car." And they're like, "There's no more cars." And we're like, "What happened?" They're like, "FEMA, which is the federal government, came through and took all the rental cars. So there's all these FEMA people that came from all over the place, and they took all the rental cars. So there's no rental cars." So we started like looking around Enterprise and Hertz and all these things. They had no rental cars, so we had no rental car to do our to go around in. So we're like, what are we gonna do? We don't have no rental car. So we're like, are we gonna just take an Uber all over the place? I mean, this is gonna be annoying to like Uber from here to there, back and forth, looking at all these different things. So that was kind of a thing that we had to figure out what to do. So that night, I don't remember how we actually got there at first, but we were there looking at the property, doing our on-site due diligence, meeting the inspector, and looking at the actual units, looking at each of the sort of the vacant units. You're not really allowed to go into, anybody's that is actually occupied, but you can look at the vacant units and see how clean they are, see if they're ready to be rented, are the doors working or not, the locks working, all that kind of stuff. Now, one thing that we always do, we do as much as we can, is we come back to the property at night. So we came back to this property at nighttime. However, now we needed to rent the car. So we rented a U-Haul. So we actually had this like U-Haul truck, and we rented a U-Haul because that's the only thing that we could find to rent. There's no rental cars. So we're in a U-Haul truck or whatever, and we end up going to the property, and we go there at night, and we have the gate code and everything. So we go there at night, and it's just me and my two business partners, and we're doing our same thing. We're looking at the property at night, because we want to see the lighting. How is it lit at night? How secure does this property feel at night? Is this property visible from the highway at night? Is it still, all these kind of questions, because you don't know what it looks like at nighttime. So we are there, and about 10 minutes into it, who gets called? Well, up comes super fast the police. Police come right up into the storage unit, and they're like, hey, they thought they caught us and caught you guys in the act, breaking in and entering and all this kind of stuff. And so actually, the police were super cool, really nice. I actually was doing a Facebook Live literally at the time. The police came right up on us. They're really cool, and it was great because he actually told us about the facility, about the area, about weather. Hurricanes coming through. He lived there for his whole life, so and he was about to retire. So he was like, gave us the whole rundown of the facility, and first of all, he made us show that we were actually buying the facility. So we had to show him a purchase and sale agreement, like, hey, this is where we're actually buyers of this facility. We're not just here trying to steal stuff. But we felt very good that, hey, somebody called the police. I don't know who it was, but it's a safe neighborhood. They're taking care of things, and they see some suspicious activity, so they called the police. So that was my fun little thing happened on my due diligence. And actually, I've been pulled over twice from the police during a due diligence, not on this one. So one on this one, once on one that I recently closed. But okay, that all said, that's some of the due diligence, some of the on-site due diligence that you're going to be doing. Okay, that we talked about. So after the due diligence, you're going to be doing things like you're going to be contacting a lot of third parties. Okay, now these third party people are like your insurance company, right? You need to get insurance quotes on this property, right? You need to look at a website. Right? You want in self-storage, website is super important. So you need to know who's going to be your website vendor and what are they going to do for your website, and are they going to do anything else? Pay-per-click advertising? Are they going to do Google My Business, Yelp? What are they going to do, right? So you need to contact these sort of digital marketers and figure out are they going to help you with your website, or are you going to do it yourself, right? This is going, you can do it yourself if you want to, but these are things that you need to think about and come up with an idea of what you're going to do moving forward, right? Management software. So you're going to need to talk to different management softwares and figure out which management software you're going to go with, right? Some are more expensive than others. Some of the sort of popular ones out there, I mean, Easy Self Storage is one that I hear about. A lot of people that do their own facilities, to run their own facilities, I see use Easy Self Storage. SiteLink is a really popular one. Store Edge is another popular one. Truthfully, all three of them are owned by the same company, who owns multiple stuff. But just so you guys know, we went with Store Edge, so that's who we went with, right? And it costs a pretty penny, but you pay for it, and you pay for the pay-per-click advertising. In self-storage, your web presence is super important, as is like your presence online, right? And you compare it to multifamily, or your web presence and presence online is not as important as it is in self-storage. Right? Self-storage, your web presence is significantly more important. And you have like a portal where people will pay for your services, or rent from you online, pay for your services, pay for your unit online. Multifamily, yeah, I mean, yes, but it's just not as important. Okay, lender. Okay, that's another one. Super important. You got to figure out who your lenders are, right? In our deal, we had a super tough time figuring out who the lender was going to be. I thought it was going to be a super easy process, and that was the big learning experience from this deal, was like figuring out who was a lender, right, and who's going to be the lender of this deal. Okay. So I didn't mention it, but this whole time, you also going to be either raising capital or figuring out who's going to be bringing in the money, right? So in my deals, in this particular one, like I said, I've done big syndications and been involved in syndications, either $12 million deals, and you're raising capital from a lot of different investors. In this one, I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to do that. I only reached out to just friends and family, people that know me personally, and I said, okay, these friends and family. I asked 7 people. Really, 6 of them said yes, and they told me in 24 hours they said yes, I'm in. And it's just like, okay, so we can do this deal. So that's how I did it. It's a joint venture with just 6 or 7 people. Right? But in essence, if you're doing deals like these and you constantly want to do, you're going to need to be raising capital from the get-go, right? And that's a super important time. Okay, so I brought you through the whole thing of like all the way up to all the things that you're going to be doing due diligence wise, who you're going to be talking to, your vendors. Like what decisions you need to be making up until the point of close, right? And that's where I wanted to bring you up until the point of close. And so that's today's topic. The rest of it is really just question and answer. So I'm going to go through the comments and look and see if we have any questions and answer. And happy to answer any questions that you guys have. So let me just go back. So post any questions that you guys have. Sorry, let's see. Back. Okay. All right, okay, so Samuel, you had the very first one here. Curious about cost seg, bonus appreciation on this asset class. Did you all do that yet? Waiting closer to tax time. Okay, so to answer your question real fast, is we are looking into this right now. When you buy an existing facility, yes, it may be beneficial to do a cost segregation. Again, you have to figure out how much does your cost segregation cost, first of all, and then whether or not it's worth it. Are you going to get enough, depreciation to offset that cost, right? So we're looking into that right now. Also, because this is just an existing facility, right? If it's a ground up facility, or if it's a conversion or anything, something like that, it's definitely going to be worth it. When you're buying an existing facility, may not be worth it it may not be as beneficial as in multifamily. At least this is my early evaluation. Multifamily has HVAC, they have carpet, or they have some type of flooring, they have windows, they have stoves and refrigerators and kitchen countertops, whatever, all these kind of things that you are using to use in your cost set, right? That you're writing off at a different speed than just regular depreciation. So there's a lot of items like that in multifamily. In storage, you don't have a lot of that, right? You have doors, I guess, and you have roof, but I mean you don't have a lot. You don't have windows. You don't have any plumbing. You don't have HVAC. Well, I mean you might have HVAC if you have climate control, but you don't have toilets, and you don't have lighting. Lighting is very minimal. So in essence, buying an existing facility, it's not as beneficial, at least early on. This is what I'm thinking. It's not as beneficial as it is in multifamily. And plus, I don't know, in this self-storage, you're also writing off. You're writing off your depreciation schedule is 39 years versus multifamily. It's like 27 and a half, right? Okay, so I would say when it comes to the tax write-offs and things like that, buying an existing facility doesn't seem to be as good as buying multifamily, right? When it comes to tax write-offs. All right, now that's just early, so I don't know. I'm still talking to this cost sec people. We'll see. All right, appreciate the question though, Samuel. Thank you for asking. Let's see. Okay. Let's go. Facebook user, thank you for asking. How did you learn the business? Underwriting, et cetera, mentorship, self-taught, podcast. Yeah. So it's a little bit of all that, right? So, let me see. I started off with podcasts, forums, and just anything you can do for free. I would say that's where I would suggest you start off. It's just anything you can do for free. Whatever is out there that you can kind of learn from for free, like this, it's free, right? You're learning. Hopefully, you're learning something, and you consume that as much as possible. Then you get to a point where you're like, okay, now it's worth it to buy a course or something. We did buy a course, so I bought a course. I really just bought the course specifically for the underwriting tool because I wanted to see how is that different than what I'm doing in multifamily. The rest of the course wasn't that as beneficial to me. For me, it wasn't that beneficial just because I'd already been doing it, right? It's like how to find deals, who to talk to brokers, or how to raise capital, like how to find insurance, things like that. I was like, okay, I already know that. So depending on your level where you're at, that could be beneficial. So if you're just starting out, that could be really beneficial. But I would say getting the underwriting tool is really why I did it, right? Okay. Okay. I got a bunch of can't hear you, but I can see you. Sorry, guys. Can't hear you. So, I wasn't able to look at text. It's kind of weird because I think people are texting me like, hey pal, I can't hear you. But it's kind of weird because you're on live stream. I go and look for my phone and see why people are texting me, right? But sorry about that, guys. Okay, so can't hear. Sorry, guys. I think I know why too. Okay. All right. Okay. Starting to get back. All right. Could you hear me? Great. Let's see. What other questions you have? All right. What were the? Oh, here we go. Colin Andrews. Okay. What were the terms you gave to your investors? What were the terms? So let's see. In general, I would say this. In general, what I'm trying to do is make sure that our deals are going to outperform what is commonly out there in multifamily. So I wouldn't say that they are. I'm not trying to project like, hey, they're just going to blow these multifamily ones out of the water. I don't project things like that, even if they do. Like, truthfully, I think a lot of them do, but I don't show that and I don't really tell investors like, this is what I'm going to. We're going to just blow everything that you doing in multifamily out of the water, right? I don't really want to say that. I don't know. I just set yourself up for failure to do that kind of stuff, right? You're kind of over promising and maybe under delivering. So in general, I would just say that, where I was talking to my investors is something like, hey, it's probably going to be like more than like a bare minimum 15% IRR. It's going to be probably more like 17% average annual return. And it's going to be like a 2x equity multiple within 5 years, right? Now, I would say those are the minimums. It's going to be a little bit higher than that. So it's going to be maybe 16% IRR, maybe 18, 19% average annual return, maybe 2 times equity multiple in 5 years. That's in general what I was telling my investors, right? But, I mean, you tell your investors kind of what you show your investors what you want to show, right? I could show them higher. It's easy when you know underwriting. It's really easy to show what you want to show, right? And so, that's probably like a sort of a secret in the game is that, you can easily tweak things a way you want to show like a great return, or you could show it like a terrible return. It could be the same deal, really. And so you just have to, these are kind of the numbers that I would show my investors, and I think that my investors are comfortable with. Hopefully that answers your question, Paul. If you have a follow-up, feel free to follow up. Okay, let's see. Where else can you find investors besides friends and family? Okay, so you want to start with friends and family. I am comfortable in asking friends and family. Right? Some people are not. Some people are like, hey, I don't want to mix my friends and family. I don't really want them to know what I'm doing. So that's all kind of on you. The other things are you got to get involved with networking, right? So you got to involve networking in person, whether it's in person, you go to, you're part of Multifamily Masters, which, is one of my groups. It's a group where we try to, and try to get you to network, right? Whether that's in person or on Zoom, you want to network with as many people as possible. The other thing I do is I tell everybody what I'm doing. So I play, like, if you guys know me, and if you've seen any of my maybe Instagram or any of my other lives I do, I'm always like, I'm at the beach a lot, right? So I live in LA, I'm at the beach. I play beach volleyball, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So all my beach volleyball friends, they all know that I do this real estate. Now, they don't know exactly what I do in real estate, but they know that, hey, Powell goes out and buys self-storage, or he buys apartments, and then he does it with a bunch of people. And if they're interested, then they come and ask me more questions about it. If they're not interested, they don't. But I tell everybody what I'm doing. And I've had people that have been in beach volleyball, that I'm friends with beach volleyball, that maybe after a while, they turn out to be investors, right? So, it's kind of anything, anywhere you can, right? You may or may not be comfortable doing it at work. That may be sort of, a judgment call on your side, but it's really any of the circles that you're involved in. You want to let people know what you're doing, right? And that includes social media. So if you're on social media, just like I am right here, you start telling people what you're doing, and people get interested. They find out more about you personally. Like investors invest in you, right? They invest in you, and the deal. Yes, they invest in the deal as well, but they're really investing in you, and that's why. That's all of my investors. They're really just investing in me. They go, yeah, I like the deal, I like it, but what is 16% IRR versus 17% IRR, 15% IRR, average annual return 17 and 19%? It's like all these numbers that people are like, well, okay, whatever. I'm really investing in you. If you think this self-storage thing is going to be a good deal, okay, I want to know about it. Or if you think the next one's going to be a good deal, I want to know about it. Right? They learn to trust you. Okay, so you got to get to that. All right, good question though. Facebook user. Okay, Brandon Rico. Okay, let's see. It says, how do you purchase these to hold long term, or is an exit strategy plan on having? Okay. I plan on. Okay, so let me see. In my projections, which which I told you guys about. I just say there's a 5-year hold, 5-year straight sale. Now, I don't plan to do that. What is my actual strategy? My actual strategy is to refinance this property in 3 to 4 years and return 100% of my investors' capital, right? And then hold on to it for probably another 10 years at that point. Okay. And so that's my strategy. Okay. 3 to 4 years to meet to make our value add, right? So 3 to 4 years to get to the point where I can refinance this property and return 100% of my investors' capital, right? That's what I'm looking to do, and then refinance this into permanent debt and hold it on for, say, a little longer term, maybe 10 years. Then maybe we sell after that point. Okay, so that's generally my strategy for these type of properties, right? You're not always able to refinance at 100% of your investors' capital. It takes a deep value add. It takes something, a deep value add that you could do that in. So you know, we're looking at deals that you can do that. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes we're looking at deals that you cannot do that. But we're looking at something like that. So hopefully that answered your question as far as like, you know, what is a long-term hold or what's my exit strategy, right? Thanks, Brandon. Okay, Jing Wang. Let's see. Where to look for listings of self-storage facilities? I know lots of people doing off-market. Okay, so Jing, here's your question. Thank you for asking, Jing. So where to look? Okay, so I mean, where to look for brokers for on-market deals, right? That's what your question is. I mean, Marcus and Millichap, right? Marcus and Millichap is a real estate brokerage, you know, nationwide brokerage. They have a lot of self-storage. You can just look them up, marcusandmillichap.com, self-storage, right? Look it up there. You can look at, let's see, Colliers. Colliers is another one. Sperry Van Ness is another one. These are all like Argus is another one, right? These are all brokerages that have self-storage sort of nationwide, right? And then there's many other ones that have sort of regional basis, like some that have like in the South, and other ones that have Northeast, and other ones that have in the Midwest. So they're not quite national, but they have regional. And you want to basically reach out to those brokers, email them, call them, form a relationship with them, right? It's pretty easy. So another thing is you can go to LoopNet, or you can go to Crexy. Right, you go to these directory sites where they have like they list all these self-storage facilities, right, all over the whole nation, and then you just look at who's selling them, and that's the broker, right? And you just look, where's that broker from? Okay, that broker belongs to this group, or that belongs to that group, and that gives you their phone number. So then you just reach out to those brokers, right? Those are all the people. That's kind of all I do, right? So, there's just the online sites, and you can just reach out to them really quickly. All right, man. This I meant to be going 45 minutes. I ended up going an hour already. So probably because that 10 minutes of just silence in there. So, okay, let's see. We got I don't know. We got like 3 or 4 more questions. I'll try to answer these kind of quick. Okay. So Ken, if during due diligence phase, while you're under contract, you somehow find out that you're not going to qualify for the financing for some reason or other, is not being able to secure financing a legitimate reason to get out of the deal and get your earnest money back? Okay, so basically, what Ken is asking is, hey, if you can't qualify for the loan, can I get out of this deal and get my earnest money back? Now, that is all according to your contract, right? So if you have that contingency, it's called a financing contingency. If you have a financing contingency in your contract and the seller signs off on it and says, yeah, if you can't get the loan, then I'll let you out and you get your money back. Well, then it's in the contract. So you have to have it in the contract, or probably in your LOI, your letter of intent, or in your contract to say that I want this in there. Now I'll tell you, right now you're in a seller's market. Okay, you're in a seller's market, and what does that mean? When you're in a seller's market, they're going to take that, they're going to red ink that and say, nope, you don't have a financing contingency. If I award you the contract, you better close this deal, or I'm taking your earnest money, right? Because I have 8 other people who are trying to buy this property as well, or maybe 20 other people, whatever, I don't know. But it's a seller's market, so fortunately, those are kind of hard to come in and put it financing contingency in there. Can you? Yes, you can put it in there, but just don't expect it to stay. Now, if you're in a buyer's market, yeah, you can. You know, when it turns into a buyer's market, and you're like, hey, I have all the money and I have the power to buy all these facilities, and you're all trying to sell them, and nobody's buying them, I'm going to put in a financing contingency, and you're going to accept it. Okay, so right now, tough. Okay. Hopefully that answers you, Ken. All right, Colin Andrews. Maybe you share this at the start, but can you share the numbers on the deal, units, square foot, purchase price projections after a year, monthly revenue, what expense ratio you're using? Okay, let me get into most of that. I probably can't get into all of that right now, but yes. So this was my first deal, right? So the listing price was $775,000. Purchase price, I bought it at $675,000, right? Number of units on the deal, so 175 units, 20,000 square feet. Okay, let's see. Projections after a year. So our projections are really after 3 years. So after 3 years, we said we were going to get to 85% occupancy. That's the only thing that we really changed. We didn't change I mentioned this. We didn't change the like our rent growth. We didn't say we're going to get up to rent like market rent. We didn't say that. We didn't say we're going to have a lot of income from insurance or parking or anything else like that. Although we're going to. I mean, we are doing that, but we just in our underwriting we didn't say that. Let's see. And then in 3 years, we're projecting that we are going to be able to refinance and give 100% of our investors their money back. Right? They'll still stay in the deal, so our investors still stay in the deal. They just get all their money back. So now they can go invest in something else, and they still have a deal where they're they're collecting dividend checks or distributions. That's kind of like the holy grail. Holy grail. You're in a deal, you have no money in it, and you're still collecting money. Okay. Let me see. Expense ratio. So initially, we're using a 50% expense ratio, a little bit higher than 50 expense ratio. Now that's high. In self-storage, you can probably use 40. All right, you really don't need to use 50. But we use 50 in ours just to show that, hey, like even if we got this down to 40 and we got to 85%, I mean, the numbers get astronomical. All right, because we're only showing like 16% IRR, but they get a lot higher than that if you can go down to 40% expense ratio and you can get 85%. Right? All right. That else said. Okay, Marcus Morrow. Thanks, guys. How does this differ from multifamily underwriting? Okay, that's kind of like probably a huge topic to get into. There's a lot of differences though, and I don't really have the exact. I don't really have enough time, so I'll get into that kind of on a future one. We'll talk about sort of the differences between multifamily and storage. I think that's probably a topic that some people want to talk about. But thank you for bringing that up, and I'll get into that in a while. Okay, because it's going to be a whole big thing of like differences. All right. Let me see. How did you initially? Okay, Facebook user. How do you initially find it from the broker? Right. I just went to their website. Right. So it was on Argus. So you guys go to Argus, and self-storage. They have a bunch of listings of self-storage that you could buy. You can buy any of them. A bunch of people could have bought it then. Nobody bought it. I ended up buying it. Okay. Not a Facebook user, so true. Appreciate it. Let's see, Colin Andrews. Okay, so do you ever let investors stay in the deal after you refi, or so they are in the deal for the duration that you own it? Yes. So I mentioned that in mine. Yes, they're in it after the refi. Yeah. So after refi, you're still in the deal. Okay. But I mean, that could change. I mean, that is for this deal. So I can only talk about like I guess what deal that I'm doing. So that's for this deal. Ken Colville, yes, thank you. Okay, what was the cap rate on the purchase? Truthfully, I don't have that number right in front of me. I don't have what was the cap rate on purchase, but I mean, if you're okay, this is one thing that in terms of just cap rate. This is the last thing, and then I'll kind of end it here. Okay, if you're only looking at cap rate and saying, okay, I only want to buy something that is a certain cap rate, right? Now I do that on certain types of deals, right? Certain types of deals. But if you're looking at a value add deal, right? You're looking at a value add deal like this deal, right? 65% occupied, right? That cap rate is going to be extremely low, and you're going to say, why am I going to buy this 175 unit property for $675,000 when the cap rate is like 3 or something? I don't know, something really, really, really low, right? It's not a Class A facility. This is a Class C facility, right? This is drive up. There's no climate control. It's 16 years old, very basic, right? So why would I buy this for a 3 cap, right? Well, because there's a significant value add in this deal. Right, and if you can realize that value add, then the property is going to be worth a lot more. And you're not going to sell it at a 3 cap, but you're going to sell it at where the market bears, right? So if you only look at cap rate on a value add piece, you're going to be missing something, right? You're going to be saying, well, this property isn't worth it. It's not worth it if it only stays at that cap rate the whole time. Yes, it's not worth it if there's no upside. But if there's a significant amount of upside, then this could be worth it. Okay, it could be worth it. Right? So just want to throw that out there for people who are asking, what's your entry cap rate? How can you buy it at a 3 cap? You bought a Class C facility at a 3 cap. That sounds like a terrible idea. Well, depends on what value add there is. Okay. So that all said, okay, let me see. Okay, last question, Michael Semmel. What's your threshold on vacancy when you buy? Threshold? I don't really have a threshold because I could buy a facility that has no vacancy. I mean, has no occupancy. Right? It just depends on the numbers, right? So if I can get a steep enough discount and this property is brand new and has 0 occupancy, then I'm okay with that, right? It's just a matter of what the deal is, how good of a price you get, right? Okay. Okay, so that is it. So for, let me see, okay, so for those of you, if you, I appreciate you coming on here and asking the questions, participating. I'm gonna try to do this again next Tuesday at about the same time. If you are interested in partnering with me, some of you have already asked me this. If you're interested in partnering with me, I do have a link I can send you. So you can just reach out to me. You can send me a direct message. I can send you a link and you just fill out the questionnaire and then you get notified of like when I have a deal, right? So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. If not, I will see you guys next week. And again, and send me any questions you guys have. If you guys have questions or topics that you'd love me to cover, happy to go over them. Okay. All right. Talk to you all later. Thank you very much. Take care.